today we have a very specific interview. A few days ago, we published an interview with Tim Draper, and we were overwhelmed with questions from startup founders and entrepreneurs asking us to direct questions to Tim. And of course, we are not able to forward all 400 questions from you guys, but Tim was so kind to dedicate the special time to answer majority of your questions. Hi, Tim, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Hi, Nelly, and thanks for getting the video out to all those 400 people that had the questions. And to all the rest of them, you got it out to.
And thousands who have viewed and watched your interview. So, Tim, the first question, which is like asked by every third or every fourth founder, is how to reach Tim Draper and how to pitch him a startup.
Oh, perfect. You can reach me, and I look them all over, and my team helps me with it. But I look forward to seeing it. And then how to pitch me, I think the pitches, the best pitches are very straightforward in the deck, so that I really understand what you do, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs just assume we know something we don't. Just assume I know nothing. Assume you're explaining it to your grandmother. And then when you pitch, I recommend high passion, high enthusiasm. You've got to love what you do, because I can usually see through it if you're just kind of in it for the because you want to be an entrepreneur. I think you want to really have this love for what you're doing, and that's the thing that will come out of your heart when I interview you. And then make sure it's what you want to do with your life. Entrepreneurship's not an easy thing, so it can be very difficult. So make sure it's something you really, do some soul searching and determine whether this is really for you.
So I'm really impressed. This means that you will at least read every email which you get, whatever it is called email from the startup founder.
I do, yeah. And if it gets, and in fact, I take 1 full day a week just to go through all my emails, and it's the only way to reach me. I don't text. I rarely text. I don't look at my Facebook or my Twitter that often. I don't look too often at my LinkedIn. On my LinkedIn, I point you to Tim at Draper.vc so that you know where to send a business plan.
Does it matter for you what is the industry and what is the product? I mean, are you focusing on specific industries or applications fields?
Not really. In fact, it really should be an industry in the making. I would prefer, most of them, the success I've had has been in companies where we weren't able to predict the industry when that entrepreneur came to us. It's what I call the other category. There's all the existing industries, and then there's the other category. If you're in the other category, we're going to be very interested in taking a look. If you're in an industry that we're already very familiar with, you might be too late as a seed investment. As a later stage investment, we might be very interested.
Do you pay special attention to the financial aspect? For example, for early stage startups, sometimes they are getting confused. They don't have business plan and they don't have track records. So they are confused by a lot of advisors who say that investors usually look at the numbers. What would you advise them?
No, if you're starting a business, if you're a seed investment, you're at that level. The financials, I mean, you should draw up a financial plan, but the financials won't mean that much to us. We're thinking, unless you, I mean, we want to make sure you've thought about it, but we don't want you to think that that's the be all and end all. You've got, I mean, a lot of great businesses started out by just creating a viral effect and spreading their product for free to millions and millions of users, and then selling those users something. So it's not a prerequisite. We're really looking at the early stages. We're really looking at the vision. If your business has been out there a while and you have revenues and maybe even profits, you should have very solid financials. But otherwise, no. I think the vision, and sometimes great entrepreneurs do need a little bit of advice on business modeling, and that's sort of figuring out how you can get paid up front, or a lot of people haven't really thought through how they're going to get paid. Make sure you've thought about how you're going to get paid, but be flexible on that, because we do have a lot of interesting, we have given a lot of interesting feedback to entrepreneurs on business modeling. And I think some of the business models we've helped create have become really extraordinary.
If you receive a mail, not directly from the startup founder, but from the referral from your network or trusted advisor or startup accelerator, will it increase the chances that you pay more attention to this?
Well, for me, it creates more friction. It's the opposite. But it does give, actually, if it is a referral from somebody, from another entrepreneur who I've worked with, that would be, then I will take it more seriously. But on the other hand, then I've got to send out 2 responses, one to you and one to your referral. So it sort of slows down my process. So it's best just to give me just the facts, just the facts would be good.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, please, you invest mostly.
And by the way, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We are well positioned to fund any company wherever it may be.
So you can invest both in Indian startup, in UK, in Europe, does not matter. Even
anywhere,
in Russia.
Africa. I've invested all over the world.
I know that in China you have even special representative fund or something like this for local.
We have representative funds in. We have the Draper Venture Network has 24 relationships with funds in 48 different cities around the world. So we have one that's pretty close to you. Otherwise, I also have relationships with venture funds in other parts of the world, and I think that makes up an additional maybe 100 venture relationships. So I think we're well positioned. We can look at anything from biotech to garbage tech to agri-tech to other tech, and it can be in any walk of life in any place in the world. Yeah, we encourage you wherever you are to think of Draper as the place to go for venture capital.
That's a very good point. Actually, Tim, one of the questions we received is why Silicon Valley Ventures invest only in startups which are registered in US or better in Silicon Valley. Of course, you can't reply on behalf of all venture investors, but how do you think, why not all of them are so flexible as you are?
Well, I love traveling the world. I love seeing people from all different places and meeting, building relationships wherever they may be. I've visited 70 something countries. I've done business in probably 50, 60 different countries. I enjoy it. A lot of people like just staying in one place and they want it all to come to them. And that has been a good strategy for a lot of people for a long time. So I don't knock the idea that you just fund Silicon Valley startups. It's just some of my greatest successes have been outside the Silicon Valley. Our funding of Baidu in China and Skype in Estonia and Northern Europe have really encouraged me to continue to look outside the Silicon Valley. Although I do live here in the Silicon Valley, and I do like all of the interesting entrepreneurs that come here. They have this great attitude, which is, here's the way it works right now, and here's how I'm going to make it better. And that permeates the entire Silicon Valley. And that can-do attitude, I don't see it in a lot of other places around the world. I saw it in China until they got this new dictator. And now they seem to have lost it for a while. Hopefully it'll come back. I've seen it in parts of Europe recently, and I've started to see it in a lot of places like in Bangalore and in a little bit in South America, a little bit in Africa. It feels like people are recognizing that, hey, if you can do something better, you can make a success of it, and you can make a big impact on the world, and you as an entrepreneur can be very well honored, and your vision can be spread around the world. This is one of those great times of the history of the world when things can be spread around the world faster than ever before, and that includes the virus. The virus has spread around the world, but the restrictions that the governments are placing on people are also spreading around the world faster than any restrictions have ever passed around the world. And I don't, it could be that, yeah, we're saving the world from this virus. It could also be that this is government overreach. And it's a gut call. I know different people look at it different ways.
Speaking about the virus, so many startup founders say that they are working on different solutions, not directly antivirus products, no, but for example, platforms or artificial intelligence solutions to create the molecules more fast, etc. Are you paying right now special attention to these kind of projects, which can potentially help to bite the virus or avoid it in the future?
Well, we've been looking at using data for healthcare for many years. Actually, I've got 32 years. I backed Polygen, which was the first computer-aided chemistry company. I backed Marlstone, first computer-aided biochemistry company. And we've been following this. We have an investment in Verge and Atomwise. They both do computer-aided biochemistry, and they are actually discovering new uses for existing drugs. They're discovering new drugs. They are becoming a better predictor of efficacy and safety than the FDA could ever be. They are, and on the other side, diagnostics, data is so much more important, and you're seeing it now. Data, we have a company called Cloudmedics that outperformed the average doctor on the doctor test, just using data. And but they only used healthcare records. If you add things like genetic history and blood test results and where you had breakfast and what you ate and what your Fitbit results are and what airplane seat you sat on and who you met, where you went. You start adding those kinds of pieces of data to your overall picture, then medicine is going to be very bespoke to you. It's going to be very specific to you. And that will mean that the entire drug industry is going to have to be completely redeveloped. And the drug companies will probably resist that, as you see it. Occasionally they do. But it's also going to be a really interesting time for startups who apply data to healthcare. I think I have a little aversion to when they say, "Hey, we've got a solution to COVID-19." I kind of think it's a little trendy rather than being a trend. And I look for the major trends. And I know people are trying to solve this virus right now, but by the time a startup gets to this virus, we'll be well on to the next virus.
So you are considering this field and these applications, but not those who are solving the current situation, but those who look at future.
Yeah, I actually think the startups of old, the big companies, are going to be more likely to be able to get a drug in through FDA approval and out and into people's hands a lot faster than a startup that's going to have to invent it and get it into people's hands. I wouldn't discourage a startup from trying. I'm just thinking that it's much more likely that it'll be a big company that can get that distribution and get that product out to everyone, whether it's a test or a vaccine or a cure. I think startups should be thinking out 5 to 10 years, not before May 1st. I think they got to be thinking long term, and I think that'll actually help a lot of people out there who are starting companies. You really should be thinking, and if you think linearly, think 15 years out, because it becomes exponential. If you think 15 years out, that will all probably happen 5 years from now. So kind of really project way out there. 15 years from now, we're going to all be flying around on VTOLs. We're going to be, we will have cured death. A lot of things will have happened by then. So if you're a startup, be thinking way out there.
Mm-hmm. Another question I see is, do you invest as VC firm or as an angel investor as well sometimes?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a blurred line because I invest as a VC investor. I have a fund, but a big part of it is my own money, and so it is kind of like an angel investment. But I do have a team. We do go through an investment process. It doesn't take as long as most venture capitalists do. We move a lot faster. Certainly to a no. We move very quickly to a no. To a yes, it usually takes a little while. But I wouldn't separate those two. We do have a separate fund that is run by a couple of other people who only focus on Draper University students and alums. Because after that process, these people are battle hardened. They are ready for anything. And being at Draper University, getting through that process. It's a 5-week, very emotionally draining, physically draining process that we take entrepreneurs through. And by the end of it, they are very worthy. And in general, they end up being better entrepreneurs. I think we have created a curriculum that is appropriate to creating great entrepreneurs. It's very different from startup, schools or whatever, where they teach you, what's a Series A or whatever. We don't do that. We just see how tough you are, and put you through some very difficult emotion. It's the emotional part is the hardest, and the team parts, and the women who get through it are just loving it. They seem to have the most, like the switch is thrown in their heads the hardest, and that is an exciting thing to see. So a lot of great women entrepreneurs that have come out of Draper University. So anyway, we do have a separate fund for that, and that does get that does give a group of people special treatment.
Do you prefer to invest with other investors, meaning when there is another lead investor or early investor on the board, or do you prefer to be the first guy and have the right of the first night?
I'm okay investing with other investors as long as they don't screw up the company. If they're very helpful to the company, if they have some expertise, but not a feeling like they have to tell the entrepreneur everything. I like the investors who make introductions, to who bring more business to the entrepreneur than the ones who are just micromanaging the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is starting a business so that they don't have to be micromanaged. So don't micromanage them, and plus, no investor is going to know the business as well as the entrepreneur does. So get over it. Just make sure that if you are co-investing with me, back off the entrepreneur. Just see how you can help. There are some extraordinary venture capitalists who I really like working with, and then there are some that have sent my companies down the rabbit hole. So I do like setting the tone for the entrepreneur early. I like sort of giving it sort of a guide or a road to go follow, and sort of say, hey, let's just make sure that we're set up the right way at the beginning, and then you go, and then I back off and might make some introductions. And that's kind of I feel the best way for a venture capitalist to operate.
Actually, we also received a few emails from angel clubs in Europe, which were asking if Tim Draper would consider co-investing with them. But if I understood correctly, if you are investing as a venture capital firm, you usually do not participate in angel clubs deals, or otherwise?
Oh, no, we don't have any lower limitation on how much money we put in. Be happy to be an angel investor. It would be a fund investment. I invest through my fund, but it's we can move super fast. We can look at some entrepreneur. I've turned an investment around in a day or two, and then I've turned it. Then it's, in some cases, it's been a year before I was ready to invest in a company. So yeah. Oh boy, European angel funds. I'm wide open. I'm actually very anxious to see what you guys have.
Cool to hear that. Then please expect to receive some deal flow from Europe coming soon. Speaking about Europe.
Both Eastern and Western Europe. Both Eastern and Western Europe.
Okay.
Now it's all one Europe, but I'm interested in both sides. Eastern Europe, great vision, not too good yet on business modeling or business planning, because they went 3 generations without a free market. It's tough to kind of bring that back. In Western Europe, they kind of went through first they ran the world, and then they kind of went through the wine and cheese generation, and now they're realizing they don't run the world, and they're going, wait a second, we don't run the world, let's get to work. So I'm seeing a lot of good entrepreneurs coming out of Europe, so I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah, most probably Eastern Europe and entrepreneurs from developing countries has gone through so many local crises that for them current pandemic is not so much such a big issue. Speaking about Europe, this autumn Draper University plans some boot camps in Europe and in Catalonia, boot camp in Catalonia as well. We received few questions about will you join these boot camps, and if not, why entrepreneurs should come there to get accelerated.
It's very exciting. It's a place, think of it as a world club of entrepreneurs, where entrepreneurs can travel from one place to another to meet other entrepreneurs, meet people who love entrepreneurs, people who support entrepreneurs, and then we actually have a little bit of the Draper University curriculum that we put into those Draper startup houses. And and now that I've seen one of them, I saw one of the two in Bangalore, I realize I'm probably going to stay at those when I'm traveling. So randomly an entrepreneur will run into me when they're at a Draper startup house. and when we're every time we open a new one, I expect I'll be there. Certainly virtually, but likely I'll be there physically. And so they are incredibly exciting. We even have a system where we can bring them. If they have a business plan, we actually have people on site helping develop business plan. If they have a business plan or a deck or whatever, they can submit it, and that will get to us. And so we will be funding companies that just blow through and visit those those hostels. They used to be hostels, and now they're startup houses. And the startup houses are great, and some interesting things have happened. I always thought hostels were for people who are sort of 21, 22 years old, who are sort of traveling around the world after college. It turns out the average age is more like 27, 28. Of the people who go through these Draper startup houses. So I'm finding that that's actually a pretty good sweet spot for entrepreneurs. So yeah, go try them out. They're beautiful, they're clean, they're both singles and quads. Lots of different ways you can spend the night there, and also there are activities during the day that you're welcome to join in on that are kind of wacky entrepreneurial activities. So definitely go around, and they're worth visiting more than one. Each one's going to have its own personality with its own way of operating and its own curriculum.
So you think that worth visiting?
And they're cheap. And it's cheaper than any hotel you see anywhere. They're cheap, or at least most of them. We will have a few sort of on the high end. None of them will be super expensive, but on the high end for the sort of crowd that's used to more creature comforts.
So speaking about benefits, we can underline that they will get more or less accelerated access to the knowledge base, yes, and to the curriculum of Draper University. They will get network, useful contacts and valuable connections through this local and international network, and they will get access to Tim Draper and opportunity to fundraise if you like their project. Is it the main?
Yeah, we have all of those. We have all of that. Yeah. And the opportunity to fundraise will come in many forms. We'll probably have various business plan competitions at startup houses, at the Draper startup houses around the world. And those will connect with the Draper Venture Network of venture capitalists around the world, and then connect with us at Draper Associates for funding too.
And we will put the link under so everyone can get access and see the contact details and etc. So
yeah, I think it's draperstartuphouse.com.
Okay, we will cross-check and put the link. You have 5 more minutes, or you already have to run for the next meeting?
Oh, there's been some. I better check. Oh, I have 5 more minutes. Go ahead. Yeah, awesome. My next meeting isn't right away.
Awesome. Do you use in your deal origination process such platforms like Crunchbase or InnMind, which help to connect startups and investors and help investors to select and identify interesting investment opportunities?
Yeah, we use everything. Anything that's available, we're very interested in looking at. We want to see startups wherever they may be. I have investments in a number of different accelerators and incubators. It's interesting watching the venture capital business evolve. We have a variety of new models that are coming out that the Draper Startup House is one of those. A new model for how venture capitalists and entrepreneurs can connect. So I think this is it's kind of a really special time as entrepreneurship spreads. And by the way, this virus will make it so it's a little tougher for entrepreneurs to get money from venture capitalists, but it's going to be where the consumer is much more willing to try new things. I know that I did a VR escape game. It was fantastic, and I wouldn't have ever done that if I weren't trapped in home. And I think other people are trying different things. A lot of people have discovered Zoom. We've been using Zoom and Skype for many years. But in fact, I got to be on the first Skype video conference back. Right? I was the first video conference. But people at times like this try new things. And trying new things means experiment with what the entrepreneurs have been working on for 5 to 10 years, and all of a sudden the customer adoption spreads much faster. So you've got 2 things. One is it's going to be harder as an entrepreneur to raise money, but then it's going to be easier to get customers to try you. So. I think on balance, it's still going to be great to be an entrepreneur.
You mean that it is better to focus during these times, not on fundraising, but on getting access to early adopters?
Customers. Get customers. And then the fundraising will come easy. If I see a company growing and lots of revenue and lots of earnings and whatever else, it's like, well, that's easy. I'll fund that. It makes my job a little easier, and in some ways not as much fun, but still easier.
Less risk and more revenues.
Yeah, less risk, possibly better return, but definitely less risk.
Good, yeah. Tim, you are making also video show, Meet the Drapers. And
it's fantastic. We have more fun with that. My dad and my sister, some of my kids, they're all venture capitalists. The whole family is full of venture capitalists, and we are having so much fun. That's another way to reach us, by the way, is apply to meetthedrapers.com as an entrepreneur. We bring on guest judges. We've had some extraordinary guest judges. We had a woman who had spent a bunch of money to be able to spend 11 days on the space station. Wow. And she said, I said, well, what was the weirdest thing you've done? Well, the most unusual thing, she said, washing my hair. There was this bubble of water and I had to get my head under the bubble of water. So it's a great show, and the viewers can invest. We set it up so we've got a crowd fund, and the viewers can invest. So Meet the Drapers is unlike any other Shark Tank-like experience because you can actually participate. You can say, oh, I'll send $200, invest $200 in this company. Maybe it'll turn into something. Beware, but buyer beware. This is, don't spend your fortune on this because they're raw startups, and that means at least half, probably 70% go out of business.
Oh, pity to hear this, but yeah, quite a standard statistics. That's exactly.
But the quality is moving up. We're getting better and better quality on the show, and we're on our 4th season. So it turned out it was a hit. We all laughed. We just did it for a lark, but it's a hit show. People love it.
But how to participate if you are not based in US? Are you going to switch to online format of this show?
Yeah, we just did a whole thing in India. We just did we recruited entrepreneurs in India. We did a whole thing there. It was great. Yeah.
But during lockdown,
and we're gonna do a virtual one in Europe, and yeah, so people will be able to do this crowdfunding anywhere. The businesses are going to probably have to incorporate in the US for the crowdfunding to work.
So actually, entrepreneurs from Europe who are watching us and business angels from Europe or private investors, they can participate in this virtual show, which you will have in Europe in the next, weeks, days?
Not the next days, but we do have it coming. I'd go to meetthedrapers.com and check it out. We will have an announcement for when we're going to do the virtual casting, like a casting call, in Europe. We're going to do a virtual European casting call. We were actually I was planning on being in Europe and doing it there, but it looks like I'm stuck here.
Yeah, so actually you will decide during the casting who will participate, correct?
Then and some of the casting will be broadcast. Some of the casting will be left on the cutting room floor.
Tim, sounds amazing.
But in any case, we are going to do some casting in Europe virtually.
We are looking forward to it, and actually I think that a lot of people who will watch us, they will apply, and I hope to see familiar faces there.
Good, yeah, I think that would be great.
Tim, really thank you. Thank you so much. I know that you have to run, but thank you so much for your amazing answers and your passion. I see that your eyes are burning like a startup entrepreneur, but burning out of being so passionate about startups. This is amazing to see.
Oh, terrific. Well, good. Well, Nellie, you're a great interviewer. Thanks for taking me Twice. You actually interviewed me twice. Usually it's one and done.
I would love to continue weekly if you are not too bored with me too fast.
No, happy to do it again. Thanks, Nellie. This is great.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay,
Keep safe
bye-bye.
and stay safe. Bye.